Okay folks, the fact that we are currently around 5 months and a bit away from the release of The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is crazy. There's still so much to be shown off in the form of full final game trailers and probably gameplay too. I cannot wait for the nearer release build up and promotions. But even now, I'm extremely excited for this game and constantly have all sorts of different questions going through my mind. And recently, a pretty interesting one popped up. What will happen to the Guardians in this game? You know, those lethal killing machines that now when you hear a piano note, you get shivers. Ugh. It came to mind going off a recent submission I featured in an episode of RYTM, where the general question of what will happen to the Sheikah tech was asked. Now, to be more specific and hypothetical, what are the different scenarios that could realistically, to somewhat realistically, to not so realistically, happen to the Guardians? Will we see them in the sky for a terrifying return? Will they be packed away and recycled? Or will it be something new? Let's discuss. Be sure to go and grab yourself a snack or drink and send them in to get featured right here, and also be sure to drop a like and subscribe if you haven't already. It really helps the channel out. And let's get into this one. With Tears of the Kingdom being a direct sequel to Breath of the Wild, the world we explored in the first game will still be very present. Changed, perhaps, but base level present is a guarantee. Guardians were one of the key features found in this world, and it's almost hard to imagine it without them. In my mind, there has to be at least some sort of answer to them. So in these hypothetical scenarios, what role or lack of role will the Sheikah tech tanks take on in the sequel? And yes, I will admit there is a possibility that there is some sort of time travel going on, and that explains it. But we're not talking about that today. It's important to note that in all of the trailers so far, we haven't seen any Guardians. No Stalkers, no Scouts, no Skywatchers, and even no Decayed. However, that doesn't automatically mean that they're gone or gone from the get-go. We haven't seen Beedle, but does that mean he's gone? I hope not. Please don't go, Beedle. Shout out to Croton, by the way, for this amazing tweet. I really hope this is how Beedle is in the sequel. Anyway, scenario 1 in my mind would be the most realistic one, that being that the Guardians and majority of Sheikah tech in general will be completely buried away, destroyed, or put back within the columns. Perhaps a bit of everything. This is what I discussed in the earlier mentioned video. The Sheikah tech, whilst amazing, did cause the downfall and near end of the Kingdom of Hyrule. They were the foundations of decay. I believe that the scars left on the kingdom due to this will be a cause for getting rid of the technology, making sure it cannot be manipulated like it was again. This in my mind is probably the most realistic outcome for both logical reasons, but also as an explanation as to why it isn't seen at all in any trailers so far. Especially the mystery of where the columns around Hyrule Castle went. We know that they were for storing Guardians, so perhaps it took them back in and went back underground. This works for the Stalkers and Skywatchers. Then the Scouts would remain within the shrines, just locked away. However, the Decayed Guardians and not mobile Guardians might be a bit more difficult to move. So I imagine that they'd probably just be buried beneath the ground to get them out of sight and hide reminders of the pain they caused to the kingdom. And of course, a lot of this is in terms of if they can control them again. You know, if Calamity Ganon hasn't completely destroyed them. However, if we were to take a slightly less realistic view on this, there is always the idea of them being reprogrammed and redeveloped, with none other than Sheikah tech specialists Pura and Robbie at the helm of this project. I've previously talked about wanting the 2 tech labs and their inhabitants brought back with more quests and story in the sequel. This would be a brilliant way to do so. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that they'd be reworked to fulfill the same purpose of being, well, absolute murder machines, but more so a new purpose if they can find one. Perhaps carrying cargo. The kingdom will be in repair, and a lot of materials will potentially be required to move around. The Guardians are strong, no doubt, so they could be recycled and repurposed into carriers essentially. Maybe even construction workers. I'm not too sure how exactly that would look, but I have faith that the Sheikah could pull it off. Especially these two. I think the main thing with this idea is that them being reworked into better, more stable versions of what they once were is unlikely. The whole defense and killing side of them is going to be gone in my opinion. If they are to be reworked, it would most likely, in my mind anyway, be for a new purpose, such as moving heavy materials, construction, or something else along those lines. That is more so for the Stalkers and Skywatchers though. The Scouts could be used for scrapping materials, as I can't really think of a new purpose for them. Maybe to train, but then that kinda keeps them as what they were for. But the Decayed Guardians, let's talk about those. I feel like in this scenario, they'd be kept intact, but decorated. Keeping a strong reminder of their past, but decorated now in beautiful colours and flowers, making them one with nature, just as they caused the kingdom to do, due to their destruction long ago. The general idea here is to find a new purpose, and then recycle the Guardians. Then there is my more unrealistic view on these potential scenarios. Ganondorf's malice influence will find a new purpose for them. Probably the most menacing and out there idea, but one that I simply cannot rule out. It's happened before and could happen again, but worse. I imagine that Ganondorf's influence and control over malice is far stronger as well, seeing as whatever is going on here. What if, hypothetically speaking of course, the malice reclaimed the Guardians once again, but this time to both make it something different, and also because Ganondorf's malice appears stronger. What if Ganondorf reanimates the Guardians, but so much stronger, much stronger? Emphasis on being stronger. Maybe even making them bigger and literally part malice. This is definitely a wild idea, but how about having the Skywatchers find their way to the new Skylands and wreaking havoc for Link up here, with all the new malice-infused abilities. I'm talking malice cannons and dropping malice enemies down. Then there's the Stalkers on land, which could become faster, stronger, and like I'd said, perhaps made of malice to increase their size somehow. Obviously, this won't happen, but it is an idea as to something that technically could. Enough of that though. The three scenarios I just went over are all possible in my mind, with the first being the most boring but realistic, hence why I started there and worked my way up in order of less likely but more interesting. I mean, come on, Guardians again but more malice? Yeah, it's possible, but in reality, highly unlikely. You never know, maybe when the game is actually out I'll be looking back at this video like a fool. Now, if I had to pick just one of these to be the outcome in the highly anticipated sequel, I'd go with the second scenario, repurpose and recycle the Guardians with the help of Pura and Robbie. But that's just what I'd want. I think it would make for some fun quests and adventures. But what about yourself? Let me know down below in the comments and let's get a discussion going. I'll see you all there in a bit. Be sure to drop a like down below if you enjoyed, and also consider subscribing for more fabulous Zelda content. Both would make my day. Follow my socials linked below to keep up to date, and as always, a huge, massive, amazing shout out goes to all of my channel supporters. Thanks a ton. Your support really helps me to make these videos week in, week out, all month long, 365 days a year. If you'd like to join them and get yourself a shout out upon joining and your name at the end of every video, then consider supporting via the links below. Thanks for watching. I hope you all have an amazing day or night, and until the next time, I've been Hyrule Gamer.